All right, what's up, boxing fans? It's Aztec 101. So this video is going to be on Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga. Yesterday, Mike Coppinger had gone on Twitter and said that Canelo versus Berlanga is in the process of finalizing a deal. They're going to be fighting on September 14th at the T-Mobile Arena. That's the date. That's the location. It still hasn't been officially announced, but it sounds like they're going to be trying to make that September 14th date so they can compete with the UFC 306 at the Sphere. Now, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. I do want to make one thing clear. I do not like this fight. I'm not a big fan of Edgar Berlanga. I know he's undefeated. I know that he could bring the Puerto Rican crowd. And, I'm sure there's some people out there that like watching him fight, but personally, I don't really care for the fighter. I think that I do believe in this situation that Benavidez was a better fight. I do think that it's a fight I have to see it. Been talking about it for so long. I didn't care for it at first, but now I have to see it. And it seems like we're not going to see it, especially not at 168. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about David Benavidez in a minute. There's a lot to cover in this video because some of these moves affect the entire division. But let's start with Canelo versus Berlanga. All right, Berlanga, in my opinion, I think he's a come-forward fighter. Pretty straightforward. He is pretty athletic, but I don't think he has the experience or just the boxing ability to be able to do anything with Canelo. I don't think that he applies the appropriate pressure. I don't think he's better than Jaime Munguia. I think Jaime Munguia is a lot better fighter, a little bit more well-rounded. Berlanga relies a lot on his power, and I think that should be a fun fight to watch, but it's not one that I'm going to pay for. It's not one of those fights. Now let's talk about this whole situation with David Benavidez, because with David Benavidez coming out and saying that he is now moving to 175, he let the WBC know that he's going to continue forward at 175, try to fight the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev, right? So that changes kind of the playing field at 168. And who we have is Christian Billy, Edgar Berlanga, William Skull, and Diego Pacheco. I don't know about this lineup, to be honest. It's kind of hard to tell. Even if you have David Benavidez in there, the only reason why Benavidez stands out is because I guess you could say he fought Plant. He's been there longer. He's been a name that's been mentioned for a long time. But other than that, he doesn't really stand out too much from the other contenders. But who do I want to see him fight? Out of these guys, I got to say Edgar Berlanga is the best one. Which sucks. Now David Benavidez moving up to 175. I don't know how the fight between Beterbiev and Bivol is going to turn out. So a lot of people are already getting ahead of themselves and saying that David Benavidez's next fight is going to be the winner of that fight. But to be honest, we don't know what's going to happen. It could be a decision that is close, that warrants a rematch. And if that's the case, if that's what ends up happening, then David Benavidez is going to have to stay busy. There's a lot of fights at 175. Here's one thing that's interesting. Out of the two, between David Benavidez and Canelo, I think David Benavidez actually has a little bit more to play with at 175. If he's ready to take on tough fights, because moving up in weight, it doesn't fucking matter where you move if you're going to continue to fight smaller opponents. If you're just going to bring up guys from 160 to 175 to fight you like you've been doing at 168, then it really doesn't matter. But if you are trying to fight some of the better fighters, I don't mind David Benavidez going slow. I know he's the number one contender, but I wouldn't mind watching him fight, Anthony Yard. Maybe even fight Callum Smith, someone you should have fought at 168. I wouldn't mind seeing him have like opponents to Better Reeve or Bivol, to be honest. And he's got some options there. Now, why I have a problem with PBC. I don't understand what's going on over there. PBC has Canelo and they have Benavidez. It should be fucking easy to make the fight. Why is it that PBC has to rely on co-promotions for these last two Canelo fights with PBC? So, for example, the last fight, they teamed up with Golden Boy, got on DAZN, co-promoted, so it was sold on Amazon and DAZN. Then you have them doing this again with Matchroom. Where's PBC in this? Why are they not making this in-house fight? I think they have to rely on potentially people not going to Amazon to buy the fight, so hopefully they can make some money off the fight on DAZN. Which leads me to believe that, you know, I don't think they want to put Benavidez in there right now with Canelo. I don't think PBC is ready for that. I think they want to make as much money off Benavidez right now while he's undefeated, while the hype is up. He's not really selling a lot anyways. So there's no reason for him to lose that undefeated record. Not right now, not until he gets the Canelo fight, the payday. Now, you do have Samson. Samson, you know, he's set. Benavidez is willing to move down to 168 to fight Canelo. I don't know if he's serious about that. I do not see Benavidez really fighting at 168 again. I think that he's not at 175 to chase undisputed and to, you know, he's not at 175 because he wants to find tougher competition. He's at 175 because he can't make 168 anymore. There's no reason to go through that struggle. He's already been draining himself to make that weight for a long time. But looking at the playing field, honestly, I gotta say, after Berlanga, I want to see Canelo move up because I don't like the contenders at 168. I don't see too many fights there that I'm interested in watching. And, you know, I guess, you know, this whole talk about Crawford, bringing Crawford up to fight Canelo, I don't really care for that fight, but I will be open to it depending on how Crawford fights at 154. I think this is a good test. You know, if it goes to decision, Madrimov doesn't get hurt, just turns out to be a boxing match, takes his best punches. If it's a close fight, if it's anything less than a dominant performance, I'm not interested in watching him fight Canelo, because he needs to have a dominant performance against Madrimov to be able to convince me that fight is even worth watching. But then again, you know, there's a lot of people that do believe Crawford has a chance. So who knows? But I would rather, at this point, see Canelo fight David Benavidez. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing Canelo move up to 175. I know he's too small for the division, but there's really not too many fighters that I'm interested in watching him fight around him. Tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment, subscribe. Are you happy with the fight? I guarantee you guys are not happy with the fight, but, you know, leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Also, before I let you guys go, him competing with the UFC, even with Berlanga, I think he's going to beat the UFC. I got to be honest with you guys. I don't really care for the UFC to begin with, and them pandering to me with Noche, the UFC, and having it. They haven't. I don't know who's fighting. I really don't care. The pandering isn't going to work. On that day, I usually watch boxing if I'm watching anything at all, and so I'm not interested. But how do you guys think is gonna, what do you guys think is gonna happen? I think it's not really going to affect Canelo's numbers, because the market is different for Canelo and UFC fans. And I have a feeling that they're both going to do great. They're both going to, sell. But I really don't think they're the same market. So they're not really competing against each other. The guys that are going to watch Canelo fight and pay for the fight regardless, they're always going to be there. It's not going to change. That 500,000 pay-per-view buys is always going to be there. I really don't think Berlanga adds too much to it. This whole concept of the Puerto Rican and Mexican, rivalry, that's what's going to help sell this fight. It's not the 90s anymore. I really don't give a fuck about the Puerto Rican rivalry. There's no rivalry. I don't understand. Usually you have a rivalry when there's, even competition, but I'm sorry, not with the Puerto Ricans. I think right now we're developing a rivalry with the Japanese in the lower divisions, but that's another conversation. So you guys leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Tell me, what do you think of this fight? And now with Benavidez, other than Benavidez, if let's say this is not going to really happen, because it hasn't really been officially announced, but let's say Canelo decides to fight someone else, another contender. Is there another contender on there at 168 that you would want to see him fight? That's my question. Diego Pacheco, William Skull, Christian and Billy, or would you rather see, this fight, Edgar Berlanga? And then after this fight, is there anybody on 168 that you care for? Let me know. Leave a comment. This is Aztec 101 in the ring, and I'm out.